another creepy hauntings of Forgotten Hollow. Today, we're gonna look at the Ohio State Reformatory.
Let's start with the history. The Ohio State Reformatory had an interesting 96-year history. During that time, more than 150,000 criminals lived in the cell blocks inside. Today, their evil spirits still prey on women, elderly, and the weak as they carry out their eternal sentences. The Reformatory was originally called the Intermediate Penitentiary, since it accepted inmates who were too old for juvenile corrections but had committed offenses more minor than those that sent others to the Ohio State Penitentiary. The facility admitted its first inmates in 1896 after 10 years of construction. The goal of this institution was to reform and rehabilitate its inmates, who received 3 things during their time there: religion, education, and a trade. Inmates were admitted for 18 months, and if they showed progress, they could be released after that time. If not, they received another 18 months. The model was successful, and OSR had a high success rate. By the early 1960s, however, the state pulled its financial support from the reform model and began converting it into a maximum security facility, a purpose for which it was never intended. By the 1980s, the conditions had deteriorated to the point where the inmates sued the state of Ohio. The lawsuit was successful, and construction began on a new modern facility nearby. The reformatory was finally closed in 1990. It sat empty for several years until local activists rallied to purchase the building from the state for $1 and committed to repairing and restoring this historic structure. Since 1975, when the prison was still in operation, it has been used as a set for numerous films, including Harry and Walter Go to New York, Tango and Cash, and Air Force One. Most notably, however, was the 1994 film, The Shawshank Redemption. The prison became overpopulated. Rooms intended for a single occupant would hold 3 residents at a time. 200 plus people perished during their time of incarceration here. Abuse, human rights infringements, murder, and suicide have caused many to stay after their bodies have gone. The increased population and understaffing brought a series of torturous punishments. Misbehaving residents could be susceptible to the sweatbox, water tubes, and even the butterfly, an electrical shocking device. That's only the beginning, but it's no wonder that the prison was shut down in 1990 due to inhumane and overpopulated conditions. The amount of misery acquired over a near century of operation continues to haunt the hallways even today.
The Hauntings.
There's a ton of documented evidence from professional paranormal teams to weekly ghost overnights that are hosted during the fall season. The basement is home to 2 specific entities, one tragic and one nefarious. According to lore, a 14-year-old boy was beaten to death in the basement. His shadow is seen flickering across walls or out of the corner of your eye as if he's escaping. Despite the lack of description, you'll be able to decipher his presence from the other ghostly resident of the basement. While the energy of the boy is light, you can feel something unnerving and unsettling when the guard is in your presence. He has been described as a sinister experience and is potentially believed to be the murderer of the young boy. As you might expect, the whole of the prison is another real hotspot for paranormal experiences. The whole is a culmination of small cells intended for the isolation of particularly dangerous prisoners. Prisoners were not allowed to leave their cell in their time within the hole, and the rooms within the hole had no exposure to natural light. It was a miserable place to be, and such an environment had been known to drive people to and over the brink of insanity. One of the most unsettling stories about the hole has to do with a guard that set 2 prisoners within the same cell, and only one emerged. All in all, it is said that 100 prisoners were sent to the hole in the space that was intended for only 20. Living people who enter the hole experience nausea, cold spots, hard time breathing, and generally a lot of get-me-out-of-here discomfort.
Locations.
One writer describes their experience about the chapel. The chapel was one of the first places that I really got creeped out. Despite the fact it was daytime and the whole place was absolutely beautiful, I kept feeling as if there was something lingering in the shadows, looking at me, wishing me harm. I felt as if it was time to move on, and I definitely did not want to spend too much time assessing the room. I'm a huge fan of religious spaces from an artistic and anthropologic perspective, and this unnerving desire to get out was rare for me. But there I was, desiring to get the hell out as soon as humanly possible. Ironically, the space was once used for executions, despite slapping some religious iconography and calling it a sanctuary. So this space is considered to be the most haunted location within the building. People have said they have captured many orbs in photographs, and that they've recorded strange, unidentifiable sounds when inside the chapel. Spirits have been sighted hanging around the doorways, but quickly vanish once their presence has been detected. The chair room is probably one of the strangest and most unassuming sights of the Ohio State Reformatory. You're walking down a hallway and you look to the right, and here is this windowless room with the chair placed in the middle, facing outwards toward you, like someone is watching you. Legend has it that a very dark entity lives in this room and prefers for the chair to be in the middle of the room. If you move the chair, expect for it to move back soon after. During my research, I found one account where a person sat in the chair, provoking the spirit. By provoking, I mean yelling at it, inciting it to take action. The person left with scratch marks all down their back. When you're in a prison, you're gonna spend a lot of time in the cell blocks. And the cell blocks is where I had the most uncomfortable and terrifying experience of the whole prison. These, after all, where most of the prisoners spent the duration of their stays. These small cells were overcrowded, spilling over maximum occupancy early on in the prison's history. It's really safe to say that this was a miserable place where people lived miserable existences. Suicides and tragedies were not uncommon. In 1930, a large fire broke out, killing 330 people and severely injuring 200 others. Those who survived were confined to a hot, crowded attic and space, covered in painful burns that easily got infected. While there were a lot of suicides in the building, 2 of them are infamous throughout the East Cell Block, one of which is James Lockhart. It's believed that Lockhart, who had less violent offenses than his cellmate and neighbors, was experiencing bullying and threats. To escape his fate at their hands, he stole a turpentine can and set himself on fire. The fire was so significant that all that anyone could do was watch him slowly melt, screaming and writhing in pain as he died. Larry Hamer, a prisoner who was a week due from transferring, made a noose out of his bed sheets and tossed himself over the railing, hanging himself. Everyone assumes that there was a fate worse than death waiting for him at that other prison. A shadow is known to watch people as they walk through the cell blocks. Before it appears, people experience nausea, which is a common occurrence when the air pressure is changing and the energy levels are wacky from another presence. The administration wing. Visitors and employees have reported experiencing strong paranormal events in the administration wing. This is where Warden Glatt and his wife Helen resided. and where she suffered a fatal bullet wound from a gun that accidentally fell to the floor. Some claimed that they could smell rose perfume coming from Helen's pink bathroom. Others have reported feeling a rush of cold air pass through them as they walk through the area. It's not uncommon to hear of a jammed camera shutter, which inexplicably resumes working again once a visitor has left the area. The infirmary. Many prisoners died miserable deaths in the infirmary. It has been said that sick and dying inmates were left there without care, many who starved to death because they were too weak to fight off the thieves that stole their food. This area is known to set off EMF detectors, and many claim to have captured clusters of orbs in photographs. An unexplained gust of air passing by has also been reported in this area. The basement. The spirit of a 14-year-old who was beaten to death in the basement has been spotted lingering around the decaying basement walls. Also spotted is a guard who gives off sinister vibes. The library. Psychics visiting the library have reported seeing the spirit of a young woman, possibly Helen, or a nurse who was killed by one of the prisoners. The inmates' graveyard. Visitors have reported seeing objects move in the graveyard, and equipment failure is not uncommon there. The cells. When prisoners were still housed there, some of them said that they felt a woman pull their blankets up around them in a comforting way. Is this a nurse that cared for the prisoners, wanting to keep them comfortable, knowing what the depressing environments they had to live in? Have you been to this location in Ohio? Tell me your thoughts after hearing about all these experiences. Personally, I'm intrigued and hope that one day I could even experience some supernatural events with my own eyes at this location. Okay, and that's it for the story, the history, the hauntings, all that fun stuff. But there's still more in this build, because obviously it was quite large. So I'm gonna sit here and chat with you guys for the rest of the time. And I hope that's okay. I really, really am glad that I took on the challenge to create this location. There's so much fascinating history surrounding the reformatory, and it's such just like a hot spot for, paranormal events even today. So I think it's just a really great, prominent location, and it came together all right. So basically, I want to talk a little bit about how I created it. So to create this build, I went onto Google Maps and actually went into the building and found some really neat reference photos. Yes, it's very difficult to make sim stuff look old and decrepit and worn down. You'll see it in the end. It does take a while till I get to that point. But it was a blast to recreate, and I'm thinking what you could do with this is do like an asylum or a jail challenge. All the doors work. You should be able to lock your Sims into the rooms. So if you wanted to, have one Sim being, the prison guard, and all the rest of your Sims be a part of the prison. It could be a lot of fun. I might think of doing a fun challenge to challenge you guys to make the best of this and make good use of it. So this tile, it's not my favorite, but it's the closest I could find to the tile that I found in the location. I wish there was a few more options. I tried not to use any CC. I just use items from the game so that this can be completely downloaded for you guys whenever you want to use it. So you can find it on the gallery under Ohio State Reformatory. And my username is Pirate Queen Anna. I know I need to change my username probably, but that's okay. I'll just keep it there for now. But yeah, this build. Okay, so disclaimer. Layout, not the same as the actual location, other than the shape of the front part. But where these rooms are, where the cells are, they're not realistic. And I know that because there's no space to do it in that way in The Sims. So I kind of made these little side rooms here be the separate rooms that I saw. I saw a dining room. This is actually a fully functioning house. I did add a small kitchenette. There's not a big kitchen, but it is enough where your sim can live. A stove and a fridge. So you can totally live here. This is a residential lot. You could turn into a community lot if you wanted to do something else with it. But I will say that it is livable. It's quite strange to probably live here, but I think it could be a fun challenge. I did add the haunted traits, the creepy crawlies traits, and what was the third one? Another spooky trait. I don't remember. But yeah, it should add to the experience of playing in this build. So where I also saw there was like an office type room, so I added that right here. The hardest part was the layout inside too, because obviously it's not to scale in any way or, as perfect as the location itself, because I had to kind of combine a lot of areas into a smaller area because I'm using a 40 by 30 lot. And I didn't want to have to go to a different world since I'm doing all these in Forgotten Hollow, the vampire world. So that this is a great location too for it because it's actually right by the graveyard. It was where the mansion was for the count. So it fits the theme really well. And I didn't want to put it anywhere else, so I had to build it on this size lot. You guys can put it somewhere else if you want to maybe expand upon this and make it, a larger cell area, but I just basically did the bottom floor as different locations kind of spread out in the way that fits. And then the top floor is all jail cells. So the bottom area that you're seeing right now, I like to think that area is the most well-kept area. So everywhere else in the build, you'll see I do spider webs and cracks and water stains and stuff like that. But in that front reception area where the kitchen, the bathrooms, the dining room, and the office, those are kind of like the newly remodeled areas because I know it's under restoration still and being worked on. And then the rest of it is where I did the dinginess and trying to make it look old. Like these rooms even on this side are gonna look a bit more tired to say the least. The difficult shape for me was trying to figure out where to put this chapel because the sanctuary chapel room and try to get a good layout there. So I kind of make it work. In the end, I do change a few things even from what you see here, but I get the base idea set up because I use this right section of the build as just like the chapel because I needed to fill the space and thought, hey, you know what? This is a very important haunted area of the build. I think we should definitely include it. This took me days too, guys. I will be honest. I worked on this for hours for 5 days in a row. So I hope you guys like this. I hope you like these new videos. I'm gonna keep doing this series, hopefully longer than just October, but I definitely want to get through the 4 builds I plan to do in Forgotten Hollow, or 5, I think, how many lots there are. But I'm doing that. You'll see this is the first room that I dirty up. And it was actually kind of fun to do, but then also kind of annoying because you just click here, click here, click here, try to make it look natural, try to make it look complete without it looking like it's painted on. So I had to do a lot. I had to move things around, change, and then I saw there's the wooden hole in the wall and then there's the plaster hole in the wall, and I was like, oh, what if I mix both of them? Because a lot of this build, or the location itself, looks like the paint is falling off. And it's really hard to get that look in The Sims. So this is the best I could do. Okay. Honestly, like, I tried my best. Sims makes everything look too nice. You have to really work hard to make things look not as pretty. You know, it's easy to make things look good, but then to make them look good and dirty, it's just, it's crazy. So here I decided to do 2 bathrooms because I had kind of this extra space. I wasn't sure what rooms to make. I was like, you know what? It's a public location. You know, I feel like they'd have a couple bathrooms. Easily accessible. So 1 male, 1 female, 2 toilets in each. Simple, easy, livable. You know, this could work as a community lot as well, like I said. But I do list it as a residential lot because I feel like it would get better use as a residential lot. But if you're creative, I'm sure you can make something fun out of this for your community. But yeah, I mean, this was really fun. Like, here's the infirmary. I kind of realized that, yeah, there was like a little hospital, so I should build that in the game, right? Because at first I wasn't sure what I was gonna do to fill all this space. Because I know, like, in the real location, there's tons of cells, and these extra rooms maybe weren't as big or weren't as, like, prominent, but I think I did a good job figuring out where to put things, considering, the type of locations I had to, like, put together. I don't know. I had fun. I'm tired, and I know that my next build is gonna be the Lizzie Borden house because it's a rectangle, and I am tired of rounded shapes right now. You don't know how annoying the curved everything is, with like fences to like the border, the trim on the outside of the house that makes it look like a castle. Frise, I don't know how to say it. Whatever. That stuff is like really annoying to manage. So you'll see some weird parts, but I fix it before I upload it. Obviously, there's just weird parts to the outside with that trim that I kind of never want to do again. That trim is hard to manage, but it's okay. It's okay. We did fine. And then this little room right here was perfect because I needed just a room with 2 chairs in the back and 1 chair in the middle for that, you know, dark entity that haunts this room. And I think it works pretty well. It's worn down, isn't one of the cleaned up rooms. You'll see this whole side gets it. Even the infirmary gets the fancy treatment of dirtying up. I don't know. It was hard. Okay, I will be honest. And upstairs was nice because it was kind of like you just kind of duplicate everything many times. But layout wise, it still took me forever to get the right layout of the build. But then, like, I was trying to block off these windows because I was like, you know, they can't have access to windows, right? They're gonna try to climb out, but then it just wasn't fitting properly, so I just deleted it. I'm like, screw it. Sims aren't actually gonna do that, so we're fine. In real life, yes, they might, you know, escape. But I did make it so the doors are usable. They're a different size door. You know, Sims don't climb, so it's not an issue. They're not gonna climb out. Yeah, unfortunately, the jail doors are like walls and not actually doors, which is really unfortunate. I looked it up and people were complaining about it years ago, and it's still a thing. Like, you unlock these jail doors and they're just cosmetic. You can walk right through them. So I was like, okay, how do I fix that? And then someone recommended using this other type of door. Yes, it looks a little funny because I use a medium wall height, but it gets the job done. And now you have working jail cells that you can lock your Sims in. Yay! It's pretty crazy. Yeah, here you'll see how you threw together the kitchenette. Just, you know, I was like, oh shoot, if people want to live here, I need a little kitchen. Otherwise, it's unusable. And that's it. Now you can see the final product after I did a few finishing touches. And I learned the new fancy camera mode that does these like nice zooms. So you'll see that. Ooh, I love it. Really spooky. Really happy with the look. Lots of different places to chill. I kept the decorations simple because, you know, obviously it's a place that they didn't want to change too much. And I didn't want to clutter, you know, with a lot of stuff. So couple paintings, couple random designs and stuff. Small bathrooms here, nothing too crazy, but then we'll check in with the chapel, the final reveal of it. I did change a few things, but quite happy with the look of it in the end. This room took me a while to figure out too. Then we go upstairs to the cells, and you can go inside the cells and live there yourself. I don't know, I had fun with this little like camera shots. I hope that's all right. I just thought it was more like you're in it, you know? Now you're in the bed. Ooh, fancy. And then just, you know, showing you all the rooms, all the areas. Yeah, this was a lot, but I'm very, very happy with the result. And thank you guys for watching. If you've watched this long, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And let me know what you want to see next. Until then, we have the internet and these stories to enjoy. Make sure to leave a comment with a location you'd like to see me recreate. Maybe there's a really cool looking haunted location in your home state. Let me know. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video for more creepy hauntings of Forgotten Hollow.